Hello, and welcome to Lumberjack Impact. I'm Autumn Gray. Lumberjack Impact is the show where we highlight our amazing faculty here at SFA and explore things that make our university great. My guest today is the creator of Bruck Labs and an associate professor of biology here at SFA. His research ranges from drones to everyone's favorite animal, dolphins. He has been a leader in his department. He's published several papers on marine mammals, and he's given students the opportunity for hands-on research. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Dr. Jason Bruck. Welcome to the show, Dr.
Well,
Bruck.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for asking.
Excellent.
Okay, well, let me ask you one thing. What specific aquatics do you study?
So we actually have research projects going on in bottlenose dolphins, beluga whales. So we've got those kind of cetaceans, or whales and dolphins, kind of covered. But we've done projects with many other species. We've even done work with mice, and we also have a project going on right now with elephants. So just about any cool animal you can think of, we can find a way to work with it.
All right. Well, how did you originally come to enjoy this type of research?
So I decided I was going to be a whale and dolphin doctor when I was about 3 years old.
All
My
right.
father being a veterinarian, it was kind of animals were the family business. And I kind of grew up in the, backstage in an animal hospital, and I had to help my dad kind of hold this down or hold that down while we kind of tried to help animals left and right. And you kind of get used to that as part of your life. And my father was also the wildlife rehabilitator for our county. So we had, at, I think the peak of it, 73 different animals living on our property, which included things like hawks and owls and peacocks and seized animals from people who didn't know how to take care of them. And you get to a point where it's just like, well, what are the only animals I don't get to work with? Oh yeah, whales and dolphins. So I pretty much said, well, that's the thing I think I want to focus on. I was really, really young, and I just kind of stuck to it. I tried to limit my skill sets in life so that I could only really end up working with marine mammals. So that was helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it works. Are you from an area where there's not many marine animals?
Well, I was born on Long Island in New York, and Long Island has plenty of marine mammals. But then I was ensconced to the upstate New York, which is a little further away. And so, yes, it was a little more like, well, I don't get to see them every day, so this is a little more exciting.
Yeah.
To kind of think about working with these animals when they're more exotic.
Right.
So, yeah.
So tell me about Bruck Labs.
Okay.
How was it created? How did you find out you wanted to create something like this?
So the Bruck Lab is really just the research lab for our group at SFA. So we have a lot of great faculty in the biology department, and we've got basically faculty members who kind of run their labs. They have graduate students and undergraduates all working on various projects. So Bruck Lab is just our group kind of working on the projects that the graduate students and the undergraduates are focused on, as well as the projects that I lead as the principal investigator.
Right.
So.
How would you say that Bruck Lab has developed since you first created it?
So basically, it starts across multiple appointments in my career. So I used to teach at Oklahoma State University for a while. I accumulated some graduate students there that had to kind of move with me where I went. And so from that point of view, it's always an evolving process. And any lab for any researcher is going to look like, who are the people who make up the lab? I know it's got my name on it, but the lab isn't me. It's all of us together as a team kind of working on various projects and really working as a team, because not one of us can do our projects by ourselves. We do need to really lean on each other as a group, and we do.
Awesome. What inspired you to create the lab? Was it maybe the students, your knowledge you wanted to pass on to the students?
I think it's kind of how you have to do the job when you're in the sciences, right? So we've got expectations around the amount of scholarly activity that we're doing, and having graduate students, having undergraduates working with you on various projects is not done as this kind of vanity project on my side. What it is this is how we do the real work that needs to be done to either protect the animals or to learn about them. And so the impetus for coming up with a research lab and actually following this career path, because this is really the natural extension of this type of career path, is that your job is to generate new knowledge in the world and to use that knowledge to make the world as well, as good a place as you can with what you have. So, yeah.
Right. And what made you want to pass this knowledge on to your students, like growing individuals in society?
So if you wanted to study marine mammal behavior and specifically how their brains work, and which is kind of a big focus for us in my lab, there's probably, if you wanted to do that in the continental US, there are very few places you can go. And I think we're pretty close to one of the only labs in our region, in our East Texas region for sure, that's really working on that. We have some other folks who do like behavioral ecology related stuff in other places, and some kind of more animal psychology stuff in some other places. But there's not a ton of venues for people who really are interested in like how dolphins think, or how dolphins communicate, or how to conserve some of these animals in the ways that we do. There's just not a lot of venues for people to get that experience. So for me, it is vital that I have a research lab producing graduate students who go on to do big things. My PhD student for my previous appointment was just hired as the cetacean scientist for the Georgia Aquarium. So not too bad, right? So that's a pretty good gig. And I've had others of my master's students go on to work in Hawaii as animal care specialists for dolphins. And it's just very exciting to see them succeed in all these cool ways. And knowing that I was a big part of allowing them to kind of get to where they got. And then now they're a big part of somebody else's future and helping them develop into the next generation of the scientists we need to help keep some of these animals going.
Yeah, that's absolutely inspiring. Tell me, what is one of the most significant things you've researched, one of the most interesting discoveries you and your lab has discovered?
So my PhD work, I discovered that dolphins have the longest memories outside of human beings by recording their signature whistles, which are their dolphin names, and playing them back like it was a telephone service across multiple institutions where I knew the social histories of all those animals. So you record a dolphin's signature whistle in one place, and you play it back for somebody who hasn't heard it in maybe 20 years.
Interesting.
And so we found out that dolphins have multi-decade social memory, kind of like we do. And that type of research led others to do that in other species. In fact, the elephant project we're doing now is to actually test elephants the same way. Instead of using names, whistle names, we're using chemical cues, because that's how elephants transmit their identity most readily. But doing this allows us to compare the intelligence of species across multiple taxa. And doing that basically lets you say, okay, when it comes to these cognitive traits, who is the smartest? Who can do some of these things better than others? And does being a social animal help predict whether or not you're going to be a smart animal over evolutionary time? So that's a big thing. The other thing I discovered with my team when I was at the University of St. Andrews was that dolphins can recognize each other by tasting their pee. So that was another one that kind of, got us a little bit on the map. We had the Colbert Late Show did jokes about it, so that was fun. I warned the school that, this is the kind of thing that ends up getting on late night comedy, and it did. So we had that. And the cool thing about that is it's a completely new sensory system for this. Dolphins can't smell. Their blowhole is their nose. So as they surface to breathe, they got to exchange all that air volume in 0.3 seconds. That is not enough time to smell anything. So they've lost their sense of smell, but their sense of taste is still there. And so rather than a dog sniffing a hydrant to figure out which dogs walk by there, the dolphin basically has to open up its mouth and do its thing. And once it does that, it can identify social partners. And we used that actually to determine, we tested urine cues off of signature whistles, and dolphins were actually able to taste a urine cue and whistle back the signature whistle of the dolphin who owned that urine cue. That's pretty crazy. I mean, that is like the animal is labeling which urine cue it just tasted.
Yeah.
That is nouns. The animal is using a noun.
Well,
So, yeah.
You just put a lot of new information on my plate. I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
So now let's shift to Marineland, Florida.
Okay.
Yes. So tell me about combining Marineland, Florida with SFA for a partnership.
Sure.
Tell me the significance.
So
of that.
Marineland is an amazing institution that has been in existence since 1438. It is the oldest oceanarium in the world. Okay, so, this is before World War II. That's how old this is. And as a facility, it has also, in its history, been one of the premier research institutes in the world for marine science. And its history obviously has changed over time, and sometimes that's waned, and sometimes that's been more prolific, but it is actually where signature whistles were discovered. And so to be asked to both be a professor here and to take on a role of being a director of research and education for the facility means that we now, as SFA, get to take advantage of this place as essentially our beachhead toward marine science in our aquatic biology concentration. As a signature whistle scientist, this is like the birth of my science, so that's pretty cool. It's where the Caldwells, David and Melba, a husband and wife team, actually discovered signature whistles in 1965. But now it's a place where our SFA students are going to continue that research from all those years ago. Our Callie Lynn, my master's student, is going to continue a project on signature whistles, and so signature whistles will be studied at Marineland again for the first time since 1967, which is kind of cool. And in that process, undergraduates and other graduate students are going to help in doing that research. Furthermore, we're going to be able to offer coursework out of Marineland now for our aquatic biology concentration students. And that's going to be amazing because it's like a class where everybody gets their own dolphin. That'll be kind of neat for students to get to experience that. So I'm pretty excited about the opportunities for research, for teaching, and for really growing our students' capacity to do cool research in their own lives.
Awesome. So very briefly, if our viewers wanted to gain some more knowledge, where is maybe a website they could go to gain some more information?
So right now, if you go to brucklab.com, you don't even need the www, just go to brucklab.com. You'll have more information on our partnership with Marineland. And as we get more information about how the partnership works with SFA, we're going to have that on the biology website. We're also going to put out a pretty aggressive advertising campaign to let everybody know what we got going on, because this is a unique research and teaching experience like no other school can offer. So go SFA on this one.
Go SFA. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show and telling our viewers about this. And thank you guys for watching another episode of Lumberjack Impact. If you'd like to see more episodes like this, you can check us out on YouTube at Jack TV SFA. We'll see you next time. Axum.
This program is brought to you by the Department of Media and Communication at Stephen F. Austin State University.